Max Verstappen and Red Bull have totally transformed their season. With a second place in Zandvoort and then back-to-back wins in Monza and Baku, Max has gone from being 97 points away from Piastri after Hungary to being now 69 points away with 7 races still to go. In terms of the title, he has definitely made himself into an outsider for the championship and would mathematically need to outscore Oscar by 10 points per race to win it. Given that we have finally seen Norris and especially Piastri make mistakes under the pressure and expectation of finally winning their first ever championship, Max's experience and just the threat of him capitalizing on their every single mistake will add even more intrigue and excitement to the last part of the season. In terms of the title fight, as long as the car stays as competitive as it's been over the last few races, of course Max has the talent and mentality to overhaul that deficit. But what has been even more interesting and perhaps even more impressive to me is the manner of Max's wins and how Red Bull have genuinely been one of the fastest packages outright over the last few races. During a time in which most of the teams are now switching their focus onto 2026, Red Bull have felt justified to keep developing their 25 car, and under Mekies and with Max at the wheel, the transformation of the RB21 has been remarkable so far. And now, the most important thing to say is that it's not been as simple as pointing to one upgrade during one race weekend that has magically turned the Red Bull into a consistent race-winning car on every single track. There have been multiple upgrades across different races that, with time and adjustments, the team has managed to fine-tune into a winning package on certain tracks and specifically low downforce tracks that have suited their car. And now, the one upgrade that Red Bull haven't made yet, but that you definitely can right now, is Lovable, who are the sponsor of today's video. If you've ever had a startup or business idea that you want to turn into an app or website, but do not have the coding skills to do so, then Lovable is here to help you. Simply tell its AI exactly what idea you have in mind, and it will help turn your idea into reality. So for example, I have always wanted a website where I can access Formula 1 standings, statistics and records on one platform. At the moment, I have to use multiple websites to access this information, and so that is exactly what I asked Lovable to create, and within minutes they built a starting point for my idea. From there, you can ask the AI to make adjustments and to add whatever tools and functionality that you want. I asked the AI to create a table of pole sitters in F1 and even noticed that first time around, the data was only correct up to 2023. No problem however, because then I asked the AI to make the data up to date as of 2025, and all of these changes were quickly implemented onto my website. That is the incredible power of Lovable. Whatever idea you have, from e-commerce to digital media, there is no waiting for development cycles to make changes, and they will support you all the way, even after publishing. Go try Lovable today with my link in the description and use my code ALDASYT20 to get 20% off your subscription. As long as you've got the vision, then Lovable can make it a reality. The first major package came at the Belgium Grand Prix with a brand new front wing aimed at redistributing the airflow around the car, as well as new sidepod inlets and engine cover. Both of those last two changes work in tandem. The new inlets improved cooling, which means that less of the bodywork needs to be opened up on high-speed tracks like Monza and Baku. When bodywork needs to be opened up to aid cooling, that always produces more drag, which the teams then need to counteract with compromises on other parts of the car. There were also some minor changes to the shape of the suspension arms, as well as the rear brake ducts, all in the aim of better downforce distribution. After the summer break and coming into Monza, Red Bull added yet another upgrade to help deliver more downforce with a revised new floor that again was designed to work in unison with the new front wing from Spa. They only had one version of the new floor, which was given to Verstappen, but on top of that, they also produced a bespoke rear wing package for a low downforce configuration. And now, most teams didn't feel that it was necessary to spend their limited time and resources on developing a bespoke rear wing package for Monza, and instead, many used a modified version of their wings from last season. Given how bad Red Bull were at Monza last year in terms of balance and straight line speed, Clearly they felt that this was an area in which they needed to funnel more resources. And not only did they have a bespoke rear wing, but along with all of the other upgrades, Max felt confident enough in the car to make a critical change ahead of qualifying and trim out a load of downforce. This ended up being a masterstroke because the car had immense straight line speed, as was evident by how easily he was able to re-overtake Norris at the start of the race, but it didn't come at the expense of causing the car to slide, which would have overheated the tyres and made it a disaster in the race. Given that all of these changes have been orientated towards downforce and bringing more aero performance onto the car, what is clear is that unlike at Ferrari, Red Bull have a better understanding and control of their car's aero platform and are more comfortable to add more downforce onto the car without the fear that it's going to induce the same bouncing or plank wear problems that Ferrari have run into. These changes have made a clear impact on Max's competitiveness, but I also think it's worth mentioning that we have also seen a slight improvement in Yuki's results as well. Throughout the season, he's been driving with an inferior spec compared to Max, and prior to Zandvoort, he was on a scoreless run of 7 straight races, with 3 of those races being Q1 eliminations. Since then, however, he has reached Q3 twice in 3 races, and more importantly, has scored points in Zandvoort, as well as have his best result of the season in Baku with a P6 finish. And now, that is not to say that Yuki's or Red Bull's second driver problems are sorted by any means, but in the context of how difficult it's been for any driver in that second seat, the upgrades along with a slight uptick in form have at least given both Yuki and the team a little bit more reassurance that they have made progress for both drivers. Another major difference has been the presence of Laurent Mekies as team principal. And now, it's important to note that Mekies himself has actually played down his impact, but when it comes to Marco and Verstappen, they have been a lot more complementary. Given the complexities of modern Formula 1, we have seen a team principal revolution on the pit wall, with more and more engineers who have the experience of how to connect the technical side with what the driver is feeling inside of the car to get the most performance out of the whole team. That has been the main contribution of Laurent Mekies, who as an engineer has counterintuitively put less emphasis on simulations and what the engineers have predicted will happen, and has given more power to Max and where he feels the setup should go. Speaking about this shift in philosophy which was driven by Mekies, Max has said, "Up until now we have had a lot of races where we were just shooting left and right a little bit with the setup of the car. Quite extreme changes, which shows that we were not in control. We were not fully understanding what to do. With Laurent having an engineering background, he is asking the right questions to the engineers, common sense questions, so I think that works really well." Something else that I think has also been a big positive for Red Bull is that they have managed to have this little mini revival in the post-Adrian Newey era. It's hard not to connect the dots between Newey's departure at the beginning of last season and the almost instant drop-off that then proceeded to happen at Red Bull. And now, that is not to say that Adrian Newey was the only person designing the car and deserved all of the credit. But even coming into this season, there was a lot of pressure on technical director Pierre Vacher to show that he can still deliver a championship level car without the presence of Adrian Newey. And although I am not saying that every single problem that Red Bull have had is now solved, this mini period of success has definitely restored some faith and confidence in Red Bull that they can once again deliver a championship level car on the aero side for 2026. And now all of this progress is about to be really tested in Singapore, because both Monza and Baku were low downforce tracks which clearly got the most out of the RB21. That is not to say, however, that those upgrades won't also make the car more competitive around Singapore, given that cooling once again is going to be a major issue, and that with these upgrades, something else that Red Bull have been able to improve in the car is the braking potential, which Max has been very critical about earlier in the season. Historically, this has been both Max and Red Bull's weakest track in the ground effect era, because it has a very unique set of traits that just isn't common across the rest of the calendar. Due to the complexity of these ground effect cars, it is almost impossible to design a car that will suit every single kind of circuit, and given how fast these cars have become, which in many cases has turned what used to be medium speed corners into corners which now are easily flat. The teams do not tend to develop their cars to suit slow speed and bumpy tracks like Singapore. This is where all of those upgrades, the ride height and the suspension platform of the RB21 is going to be really tested once Red Bull put it into its high downforce configuration. If with all of that extra downforce that's needed for the slow speed corners, the Red Bull can manage to be drivable and competitive on the bumps of Singapore, that should give Max the confidence he needs and could hopefully provide him with a car that once again can genuinely be as fast as the McLaren. Singapore is more than just another race. Max and Red Bull have transformed their season and deserve credit for doing so, and for making themselves into title contenders. But Singapore will be the litmus test as to whether they'll really be able to push McLaren from this point onwards on every single track, and if they really are a genuine title threat. Well, there you have it. Once again, a big thank you to Lovable for sponsoring this video. Do not forget to check out my link in the description and to use my code ALDASYT20 to get an exclusive discount. And if you did enjoy this video and want to support the channel, then don't forget to subscribe, that would be massively appreciated. And I'll see you in the next one.